how to beat the procrastination cycle. So I'm not going to waste your time, guys. Procrastination isn't just a bad habit. It's more of a cycle, and it's a vicious cycle that does stop you from achieving a goal. So with more procrastination than ever, particularly I think among like the younger people, like teens, 20s, my generation, people are finding it really, really difficult to kind of find time for things they're passionate about. And by find time, I mean they're procrastinating is why they can't do those things. So this video is a beginner's guide to the procrastination cycle and how to beat it, hopefully to help you with your language learning. I know a lot of people do procrastinate on language learning, but yeah, that is what you'll understand by the end of this video and how to basically avoid procrastination. So if you like this kind of educational content, definitely hit the subscribe button, but let's go. So this is the procrastination cycle. There's a few different kind of ones tossed around on the internet, and I've basically put together the one that is best for you to look at. So the way the procrastination cycle works is it's literally just the kind of process you go through when you're procrastinating on something. And the reason it's important to understand this is because you've probably procrastinated a lot in your life. And like, yeah, you can kind of just say, I'm just not going to procrastinate, I'm just going to make sure I do it. But like, that's not really good enough because there will come times when you do procrastinate on things. So having this kind of surgical understanding of the process of procrastination, for me at least, I've found is really, really useful to avoid procrastination, because once you understand this, it's almost like in The Matrix, taking the red pill or whatever it is. I've only watched The Matrix once. Come at me in the comment section if that's wrong. But yeah, so this is the procrastination cycle. It starts off with the task/goal. So for example, you're going to do a little bit of language learning revision. That could be just the goal for today. The second stage is unhelpful rules and assumptions, which basically means, okay, to do this task, to learn a language or do whatever, I need to do these things. And for example, they might be flashcards, reading, anything like that. You have rules and assumptions about what you need to do, and they're not helpful. 3, perceived discomfort. So because you have things that you think you need to do to achieve this goal, you feel discomfort, you don't want to do them. For example, it could be, maybe you don't want to go for a run to get fit, you don't want to do this kind of studying to learn a language, etc. 4 is excuses. So because you have that perceived discomfort, you think, I don't want to do this, it's uncomfortable. You go, okay, well, I don't have time today, or I'll do it tomorrow, or I've already done enough of this for today, etc., etc. You make an excuse, and of course, because you make an excuse, that validates the fact that you're no longer going to perform whatever you need to do, and that's where procrastination starts. So just for the halfway point, we've gone through, you have a goal you're going to achieve, you know what you need to do to achieve it, that's uncomfortable, you make an excuse not to do it, and then you start procrastinating because you're not doing it. Then what follows procrastination? Because procrastination itself is like, you feel bad because you're procrastinating, but they're actually separate, the bad feeling and the procrastination. The procrastination starts first, and then the consequences start. And this is kind of where it gets interesting. There's a difference between procrastination starts and consequences start. Procrastination starts means you start to not do what you know you're supposed to do to achieve your goal. Consequences are kind of more on an emotional level because you know that you're supposed to be achieving this goal and you're not achieving this goal. So of course, when you know you're supposed to be doing something and you're not doing it, you of course get kind of upset, angry, frustrated, annoyed, maybe even a bit anxious, depending on the goal, etc. So that is why the consequences start. Because you're supposed to be achieving this goal, you're not doing what you need to do, and of course that means you're not achieving this goal. So 7 is procrastination continues. The reason there's procrastination starts and procrastination continues is because of this kind of emotional consequence here. So what happens when you procrastinate and you feel bad, you don't actually, a lot of the time, your bad feeling doesn't actually make you go back on track a lot of the time. It actually can make you go off track more, and I'll explain how. Basically, when you feel bad, you turn to things for comfort, like it could be junk food, for example. It could be, TV, any kind of pleasurable activity that kind of gives you dopamine. But the result is all the same, and that is further divergence from what you're supposed to be doing. And the reason for that is because that is perceived discomfort. You feel more discomfort because you feel like upset because you're not on track, and so you seek instant comfort rather than actually fix the problem. It's kind of like if you have a hole in the fuel tank, for example, your car's leaking fuel. Instead of patching the hole, which is what you should do, you're just putting more fuel in that's going through. So if you were to go back on track when you feel bad and quit procrastinating and actually start achieving the goal, you would start to feel better and you would be patching the hole in the fuel tank. Instead, what you're doing is pouring more fuel in the fuel tank and effectively trying to ease your discomfort through pleasurable activities, which continues procrastination because, of course, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing you're doing pleasurable activities. And then after that is chronic stagnant learning, which basically means because you've gone from procrastinating to feeling bad to trying to make yourself feel better, it's kind of a downward spiral. And of course, you don't make any progress in your task or goal. So now that we understand the procrastination cycle, let's unpack a few things. So obviously we want to quit this. You can see how this is a pretty negative thing, and it goes way out of control pretty quickly. So to pull yourself out of the procrastination cycle, you need to understand why you're procrastinating. The reason you're procrastinating is because when the perceived discomfort is high, and by perceived discomfort, I mean you just don't want to do something. You see like running, for example, you go, oh, I don't want to do that, it's not going to feel good. Because the perceived discomfort is high, you put off the task, and instead you do pleasurable activities to kind of make yourself feel good, etc., and that makes you feel worse. So here is the solution for when that happens. 1, stop indulging in pleasure to avoid a task. Now that is easier said than done because of course doing pleasurable things is easy. That's why they're called pleasurable things. And of course, using discipline to do a task that has some kind of perceived discomfort is of course hard because it has perceived discomfort. It's easy to follow the path of least resistance and do the pleasurable thing instead of the difficult thing. Unfortunately, that makes it worse. And understanding how this actual cycle works, as soon as you start procrastinating and feeling bad, you can literally say to yourself, okay, I'm at number 6. The consequences are starting. Am I going to continue procrastinating, or am I going to jump back through and go back to where I should be doing the things that are somewhat difficult? So once you understand that, you can say, okay, I'm going to stop indulging in pleasure. And here's what you do. You set yourself one easy high ROI task. I'm going to explain what that is in a second. But first, let's go back to number 2 for a second. Although the number 1 isn't really what starts the procrastination cycle, it just kind of needs to be there for comprehensiveness. What really starts the procrastination cycle is number 2, unhelpful rules and assumptions. So 2 things can happen here. Either you're setting yourself a perfectly fair task, for example, running to get fit, that you're not achieving, or you're actually setting yourself kind of a weird task. Like you might say, okay, I want to get good at a language, but you don't really set yourself a clear task to become better at the language. And that can kind of start the procrastination cycle because you don't really know what you need to do. So I want you to basically set yourself with clarity the task you need to do to achieve a goal. So if you want to get more fit, the task isn't just, oh, I'm going to do more exercise. That's a little bit ambiguous. The task is, I'm going to go for a 1 kilometer run, and I'm just going to do that. And then we'll see what happens after that. That would be setting yourself a specific task. With language learning, that might be, I'm going to watch 1 video on the language I want to learn, and it's going to be someone that's a native speaker talking about the language, and then we'll see where we'll go from that. That is setting yourself one easy task. When I say high ROI task, ROI stands for return on investment. It basically means what you get out of what you're doing. So the return on investment for running, for example, is you'll get faster and you'll be healthier. The return on investment for a lot of language learning tasks is actually not very good. A lot of people waste their time watching YouTube shorts and other things that aren't particularly useful. Duolingo is not the worst, it gets hated on, but yeah, that's also not particularly useful. So the high ROI language tasks I found are just the things that give you the most progress in the language you're learning. So for example, doing flashcards, digital flashcards are best, watching a vlog from a native speaker where they're speaking in their language with maybe subtitles, or reading in the language can be really, really useful things. I've already made a video on high ROI language learning tasks. I'll have it pop up on the screen right now and be in the description. I definitely recommend you check it out. But that is the next thing you need to do. And then from there, progressive overload. So once you've set yourself, I'll just say congratulations. If you get to this procrastination, bad feeling kind of area, 5 and 6, if you actually manage to pull yourself away from 7, away from continual procrastination, and you set yourself one high ROI language learning task, maybe you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to read 1 practice paragraph and I'm going to write down all the words I don't know, put them into flashcards. That is actually ripping you away from number 6, and it's taking you back all the way to the start task/goal, and you're actually going off the procrastination cycle into productive work. And you have my congratulations if you do that, because it's a difficult thing to do, but it will serve you well. that is the thing you should do when, of course, you get to this kind of procrastination area. So progressive overload literally means, it's actually a gym term. It means like increasing the weights over time. Obviously, if you want to get stronger in the gym, you start off with 5 kilo weights, then you move to 6 and then 7, so on. That's pretty obvious, right? Progressive overload is the same in a lot of things. So with language learning, obviously you're going to start with text for beginners, and they're going to get a little bit harder until eventually you're reading like War and Peace in Russian, like you're reading hard stuff, you know what I mean? So with this language learning task, you're obviously setting yourself one task to pull yourself away from procrastinating because you're doing work. And then once you've done that, you progressive overload. So you set yourself a harder task, or you do the same task again and again and again, and then until you're making progress effectively. It's pretty straightforward. You're procrastinating, you stop indulging in pleasure, takes discipline. You set yourself one task that's achievable, and then you make that task a little bit harder, and you keep doing it over time. That is how you pull yourself out of the procrastination cycle. And guys, I do appreciate you watching, but basically the bottom line is quitting the procrastination cycle can be challenging, but you owe it to yourself to boost your productivity and achieve your goals faster. I don't know what I was trying to write there, but yeah, procrastination isn't fun. You know it isn't fun. Just stop yourself doing it before you go any further. Guys, that is the video. Hit the subscribe button and comment any questions down below. Happy to help anyone with their own productivity struggles. I do highly recommend you check out my other video on beating procrastination. That'll be in the description, and my video on high ROI language learning tasks. I've got links to my website and Discord in the description. And yeah, have a good one. Thank you for watching.